Hello, John Jay. Let's
Laura,
see. Laura? Hello, hello. It's the
I
man
finally,
behind the links. How
yeah, I
are
finally
you?
get to see you.
Well, I dressed up just for you today.
Oh, me
So,
too.
well, for the viewers, of course.
Right.
Dressed up for the viewers. Let
Yeah.
me make sure it's telling me it's recording, and that's what it should definitely be doing. But let's just make sure. Okay, it is recording. All right, let's do this. I love your background. I know it's your house, but or your studio, but still,
Yeah.
let's see what you got in there. Oh, lots of things you're going to tell me about in this video. So tell us a little bit
Okay.
about yourself, John. All right, are
You
you
want-
freezing up?
No, no, I was waiting to see. I didn't know if you were asking me a question or.
Oh, sorry. Hi, John. This is
Oh,
welcome to the CE introductions. We would love to just learn a little bit about yourself if we decide to take one of your classes. There's lots of visitors on the CE locator, and they're just curious, who are you? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background, and also spell out contact information like your website or your email?
sure. Thanks, Laura. It's great to be with you today. My website is roltraining.com, and people can email me at rolmt@earthlink.net. But they can always get to me through the website, roltraining.com. Yeah,
Excellent.
I've been doing continuing education classes for probably 16, 17 years now, and I've had the online courses available now for about 10 years.
Let's see. So 16 years ago, when was that? 2000. Oh no, don't make me do my math. What year was that you started?
Was well, I started doing CE classes probably in around 2008, around there.
Excellent. So tell me a little bit, can you describe your classroom for us? So I was reading some reviews and I loved seeing that one of the students wrote, he brings the material to our, well, I don't know if these are the exact words, to our fingertips, was something to that effect, where he really made it foundational in the body work.
Well, I work hard to draw from a lot of different sources, and including my own sort of hybrid techniques and things. But I'm very focused on something called accelerated learning principles, where you bring everything together, but you organize it in a way that people can hear it, can see it, and can understand it and use it right away. So I spend a lot of time, a lot of focus on creating an atmosphere in the classroom, and same thing for the online courses, because most of the online courses are actual videos of classes that I've done. But to create an interactive environment, so it's not just me, flapping my lips in front of the class. I do my best to kind of draw people out and get them involved in the learning, because the studies show that people get a lot more out of it that way. And the results are I get lots of feedback, whether it's on by email or Facebook messages or chats or texts or even written letters, believe it or not, people saying that
Yes.
they use the techniques and that they actually got something out of the class, because almost every massage therapist knows that sometimes you can go to a continuing education class and you leave with a piece of paper and that's about it. And I've experienced that before. And so I work hard to make sure that what I provide for the massage therapist is enough value that they feel like they got way more out of it than what it cost them to do it in the first place.
I love those kind of classes because when I go, I may be exhausted. I'm just, oh, I just other one. And then, you get those wheels turning in the beginning of the class and the teacher, the instructor gets you engaged and everything in your other life goes away for that period of time and you leave feeling empowered to just move forward in life. I just love when I get a chance to engage my mind or just my ears when I hear the teacher talking, or I ask myself, how is this going to relate to my practice I have now? Like, for example, I've been in this field for 29 years. So I'm always asking myself, I'm not negative about continuing ed, but I'm always like curious. I wonder if I'll change to, slightly tweak my technique or, or not. But every bit that comes to me, it goes in this big case right here and filters down into my body. And I've just learned over the years to just let it be, but go to those classes and really enjoy the experience, the
Yeah,
beingness being there. So,
absolutely. And I did a lot of training myself, what they call train the trainer type courses
who did you do
in
that
this
with? Do you remember?
peak potentials and Les Brown and a few others. Spent a lot of money to learn how best to get people engaged in the class because that's my goal is to get people engaged in the class, get those wheels turning, but get them participating, get them to ask questions, and kind of put it out there, where they have to think about what we're talking about and not just, you know, feel
Go
like
through the
they're
motions.
watching me regurgitate a bunch of information.
Yeah. Can you think of a particular experience that somebody may have had in your classroom that you want to share? Was there anything that came to mind when I asked that question earlier?
Well, there's a lot of things that have happened. One thing that I recall not too long ago, I was doing a class. It was a craniosacral therapy class, and in that class, people often will share their experiences with the work. And even if it's the first time they've ever done it, or they've had other trainings with other people and they come in, people share what they're experiencing, either as the therapist or as the client. And there was this one woman in this class that was very quiet through the whole, it was an 18-hour training. So it was about 3 days and she was very quiet and then at some point right towards the end of the third day she raised her hand and wanted to share and basically what she said was she had never done craniosacral therapy before, she had never experienced it before, she was working with somebody who had never done it before, and as she was the client on the table she had this vision of a time she had been in the military years earlier in the Iraq War. And right before she was shipped off to Iraq, her friends and people she knew had this party. And she went to this party, it was kind of like her last fling before going off to war. And somebody drugged her
Oh,
and raped her. And she didn't know who it was. When she woke up and came to, she didn't know who it was or what happened. And then on the table in the craniosacral therapy class, she had this whole vision of the circumstances, who did it, how they did it, what they did, and the whole thing. And she felt like she was empowered to confront that person and get some accountability. So, I mean,
wow. That was heavy.
I've
It's
had a
deep.
lot of things happen in those classes, the direct indirect technique classes and the craniosacral therapy classes. That one just blew me away. That somebody and like I said, the person working on her had never done these techniques before, and she was just laying there receiving and had a whole like a movie, a whole picture of the whole thing.
That's it. That wow. And It's hard to have a conversation after that
I
story.
know, I'm
Very
sorry.
sad for her, but I'm glad she's able to
Sorry.
move through and start resolving, I hope.
Well, she was
I
very
remember,
appreciative because it had been bothering her for years
I
because she
bet.
didn't know what happened and who did it. And she felt like she finally understood the
Yeah.
situation.
Can you imagine going off to war with that in the back of your mind? It's so heavy in your body. But the fact she's a survivor of that experience, but also she then takes that heaviness with her to war. She experiences whatever she had to go through during that time period, and that compiles. And the fact that she actually came into the classroom, not maybe she didn't know that this was going to come up, but she maybe read about craniosacral and how it can quiet the body long enough that resolved situations can come up or unresolved situations. But just the strength it took for her to share that story. She didn't have to, I'm sure, but the
Right.
fact that she did share it with the group, it's really powerful. And so thank you to the universe, whoever this person is, and may that person continue to work through the layers and
Yeah,
continue to have a positive life. Wow.
absolutely. Absolutely. She felt like that she was able to kind of start fresh a little bit,
Right,
you know.
right. Well, may yes. So speaking of that, I did have a question in one of my interview questions. So I'm going to draw you to that. So sometimes trauma can be really scary for students. Even like we all know we have opinions and circumstances that happened in our life that we want to keep held close to us. So sometimes when we show up even to a bodywork therapy session or anywhere, we put on our vest of armor. Um, how is it that knowing that something could come up in the classroom, how can you describe for us how you set the envelope of safety?
Yeah, we talk about it. First of all, we talk about what happens when an emotional release comes up or something like that. And of course, there are all kinds of emotional releases that can be very, very subtle. Maybe just like a little teardrop, where, there's no trauma or drama. And then I've had some situations come up where there was a lot of drama and trauma in the class. And we do talk about it, and we talk about what you can do as the therapist in that situation. We talk about what the client's rights are. You know, we don't, I mean, we encourage people if they want to let something come up to do that, but it's not something that happens all the time or that some people are ready to do, and that's perfectly fine. But we talk about asking the person if they need anything, if they want anything. We talk about holding their feet to help them stay grounded. We talk about encouraging them to breathe because the first thing that we do when the fight, flight, or freeze mechanism kicks in, when something comes up, is we either hold our breath or we breathe extremely shallowly as a way to kind of keep things down. And so, we encourage people to breathe in a kind of a continuous flow of breath where there's no stops, so that if something wants to come out and surface in that moment, in that bodywork session, then it can, but it doesn't have to. They don't have to. So we talk
Right.
about those things.
So if I could rephrase, dramatic moments, traumatic maybe releases, emotional releases might happen, but it's not the focus of the class. The focus of the
Right.
class is to calm and quiet the nervous system and then just let be what happens, what comes of it. I like hearing that. It's for myself. I have had a lot of blocks personally when I go into that classroom. I put on my armor. Not when I'm teaching. I'm talking about when I'm going in as a student, mostly because I have very sensitive feelers for judgment. Like I can taste it. If somebody is making an assumption about who I am, that will just put up my walls and the person doesn't even know they're doing it. And I might be wrong, but that is when you go in a defensive mode, especially when you've been in body work for many, many years and you know that's a part of you. I do find that I setting the stage in the beginning to give permission for anything happening in the classroom, as far as, I'll still be the teacher, I'll still hold the envelope, we'll still focus on the class material. I just really have always appreciated that type of setting that somebody can create for me as an instructor or with their assistants. So thank you for
I
that.
mean, the focus on the class is, what are we there to learn that day? And then, as I said, I create an interactive atmosphere and I draw people out and I try to get everybody involved. And I realize that some people are very outgoing and expressive, and some people would rather stay in the corner and just kind of watch the movie, so to speak. But at the same time, I know that people get more out of it when they're involved. So I try to draw people out, and the goal isn't to have emotional releases. The goal is to learn techniques, apply them in a certain way that I describe and demonstrate to the people in the live classes and the online courses. And then what happens, and then, okay, then how do we deal that with that? And, you know, not every therapist is ready to handle, a big kind of a dramatic response, and so we talk
Right.
about that. But, things can happen. And when people are willing to be present, I mean, really present and create a trusting space, then, I mean, there isn't a person on this planet that hasn't had something that they've kind of pulled down, and sometimes it shows up in their body. It shows up in their shoulder or their neck or their jaw or their knee or whatever. And you're working in those areas, and it comes out. So, we talk about what you do in those situations.
Yeah, I had an experience with Feldenkrais, my first visit to a Feldenkrais practitioner, and all I remember was about 20 years ago, is holding my knee and a tear came down. And I
Mm,
hadn't thought for years about how disappointed I was. I was a gymnast and my knee kept cracking whenever I bent it. It was probably just some growth plate and whatnot.
mm,
The osteopath that we went to visit just said, well, it's what you get. It's like, I just remember being really sad about that. I grew out of
mm,
that. I don't have the knee cracking anymore, but I have the memory of it. And so I
mm.
appreciate it in a way that my body really held memories. That was my turning point to wow, it's there because I didn't call it up. I didn't remember it before. It's just wild. Just
Right.
a very powerful experience for me.
And sometimes people, kind of criticize, massage therapists when they talk about holding emotions in the body. But there's a fair amount of research out there showing that how this happens, and there've been a lot of research done at the National Institutes of Health about this and various other organizations. So, and almost anybody probably has experienced feeling stressed and their jaw tightening or their neck getting really tight or their shoulders coming up or we've all experienced that. And if you do that enough times, then it's going to create dysfunction in the body.
Absolutely. I'm going to turn a little bit here and ask a question about your backstory. What led you, so 16 years, so you have a rich history prior to instructing that I'd love to hear a little bit about how that affected your teaching. I hear you did take some educational courses, but where do you come from? What's your past?
Well, yeah, I've done over 150 18-hour trainings now over the years, and I've done well over 25,000 sessions of massage, primarily direct indirect technique and craniosacral therapy, as well as muscle balancing and things like that. But what got me here was a traumatic back injury 30 years ago. I was a computer programmer, database manager, software development manager in Dallas for many years, working for large corporations and supervising groups of programmers and building large computer systems. And it was very lucrative. I was getting paid very well. And of course, over time, if you're sitting down enough hours of the day, year after year after year, it starts to affect your back. Well, long story short, I started having a series of back problems, and it got worse and worse and worse. I'm actually almost finished writing a book about this, and a lot of very strange things happened during this time. And finally, I went to a doctor and they diagnosed me with a massive herniated disc in L4, L5, and sciatica, where the sciatic pain was going all the way down the leg to the foot. And I could not sit, stand, or walk for more than a minute and a half at a time without excruciating pain. And I had been to, chiropractors and, various medical doctors and all kinds of people, and nothing seemed to help. And when I saw the MRIs, I could see, with the naked eye, the herniated disc was pushing right up against the sciatic nerve. And it was very hard because I was, trying to maintain this responsible job, as a computer professional. I was single parenting my son at the time and living in Dallas and maintaining our home and everything. And it was extremely challenging. And the doctors were very helpful in that they said, we're going to do everything possible to help you avoid surgery. This was at the Texas Back Institute, just north of Dallas. And the head orthopedic surgeon told me that. And he said the reason is because 50% of the time when people get back surgeries, they have to come back. Sooner or later, they're back for one reason or another. And it's interesting. I have a brother-in-law who does back surgeries every day. He's a neurosurgeon. And I told him the story about this orthopedic surgeon saying that 50% of all back surgeries people have to come back. And he said, no, that's not true. And I thought he was going to say, no, 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 we're able to help a whole lot more people than that. But that's not what he said. He said it's closer to 85%
Whoa.
people have to come back after a back surgery. And a lot of that's because people keep doing the things that they were doing and they think it's a quick fix, silver bullet, and they don't, empower themselves to do what they need to do to strengthen the muscles and get massages and things like that. Anyway, long story short, they tried steroid injections, they tried epidurals, they tried a whole bunch of different treatments. Nothing worked, and they scheduled me for surgery. And at that point in time, uh, the nurse who was orienting me to the surgery saw that I was really frustrated because I was a person that took care of myself. I had a good diet, I exercised, but I sat all day long at my desk and in my car commuting back and forth to work. And she said, you should read this book. And it was a book by a doctor, a medical doctor named John Sarno. And he had a lot of very novel ideas about back pain, having to do with stress and tension in the muscles. And he said that somewhere around 96 to 98% of all back surgeries were unnecessary. And I thought, whoa, really? And basically,
And
he
you're
was
like,
saying if do, you had to do two things. You had to reduce stress and tension in the tissue. And of course, I had a lot of tension in the tissue from sitting down all day long. And he said you had to increase circulation. And I learned that one of the things that helped reduce tension and stress in the body was massage. And there's been a ton of research about that, about how it helps lower blood pressure, how it helps to stabilize, heart rate that's too high,
Interesting.
how it helps hormonal balance, lowering cortisol and increasing some of those feel-good hormones. And I started reading about some of that research, and I thought that's interesting. And then somebody told me that massage can also help increase circulation. Well, I learned over time that it doesn't increase circulation like jogging around your block does, systemically, but it can.
Right.
There is some research that shows that it can increase circulation locally in the areas where you're working. And so anyway, I started having massage therapists come to my home because I couldn't go anywhere and work on me. And then somebody, I think it was actually my mother, had gotten help for migraines with craniosacral therapy. And she told me I should do that. So I got a craniosacral therapist to come into my home and work on me. And they worked on me about 2 to 3 times a week prior to the scheduled surgery. And gradually, my minute and a half time that I could sit, stand, or walk increased to about 5 minutes. And I thought, this is
That's a big
progress.
deal. Yeah, it gives you that
Yeah.
hope. It lifts you up.
And so I started weaning myself off the pain meds. I'm the type of person that doesn't take any medications unless I absolutely have to. And I was taking these really strong pain meds and sleeping pills to be able to get some rest. And I started weaning myself off of those. And I found that I could still sit, stand, or walk for 5 minutes without pain. And I thought, this progress. And so I'm going to cancel the surgery. So I did 2 days before the date. And the orthopedic surgeon called me into his office, checked me out, and he said, John, I don't know what you're doing, but whatever it is, keep doing it. And I said, well, I've got these massage therapists coming in, and I've got craniosacral therapy, and I'm working on emotional issues. And he said, John, I,
Find your
I don't
way.
have time to listen to all that right now, but just keep doing it. And he put me on a course of physical therapy at the Texas Back Institute. And back then, the physical therapists were very hands-on, and they were doing very intensive myofascial work as well as giving you
Wonderful.
exercises and things like that. And all these things started, just filtering in my brain. And I started like talking to everybody I know about the benefits of massage and craniosacral therapy and myofascial release. And after a while, a series of things happened. My son grew up and went out, left home, and I decided to leave Dallas and I decided to go to massage school, just see what I could learn
What
about
is
it.
this
And it
all
just
about?
changed my career. And so 25,000 client sessions later and 150 18-hour trainings, here I am. It's the best decision I ever made in my life.
That is a strong motivator to keep going. Thank you. I appreciate hearing that story. It's not a story. It's your life. It's your reality and it's your curiosity. Somehow you were able to, at that very intense period of time when you are heavily medicated, when you are heavily frustrated, your curiosity still drove you toward having questions answered, even though those questions were not simple or the answers were not simple. Where that comes from with you. And I love that your mother supported you and said, hey, check this out. Cranial sacrals, I had my first experience. My sister's an osteopath, and my first experience, I had clogged ears and sinuses from visiting her and being on a plane. Well, the sinus was there. It got bad. My ears were killing me. So half an hour with her osteopath friend, or whatever, she paid for it. Half an hour with that person, and I went about 7 years without a sinus infection or a sinus impact. I had a life again afterward. It didn't cycle continuously. I just thought that was really wild. I was a half an hour. I coughed, my hip shifted, and then I get up where it's Disneyland, and all of a sudden I realize I can go on the rides. It's like,
Oh,
oh, this is so cool.
yeah,
Just really
yeah.
those experiences in class or in sessions. I do encourage massage therapists to go and visit lots of different therapists just to
Mhm.
be a curious, I don't know, traveler as well.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
oh,
absolutely.
we are being told we are running out of time, and I could talk forever about body work for sure. But
Well,
we
I
have
think
about 10 more minutes.
one
Um,
thing I wanted to add, Laura, was that in my classes, when I mentioned my story, I asked for a show of hands, how many people here had some kind of trauma or something happened to them personally or a loved one. And it's amazing how many massage therapists have had some kind of physical, mental, emotional issue that pushed them into the world of massage therapy. And I think it makes them more empathetic and more compassionate
Absolutely. I
and
think
wanting
if
to help.
I've taught from someone right out of high school into massage school. Why are you here? Mom and dad thought it'd be a great career because I'll make a lot of money. To someone who was 72 when he started and he was a naval officer. And to see even the naval officer was like, when we were doing the cranial sacral or another type similar to it, he is like, I don't believe in any of this. And I was floating around on the ceiling, and it was just incredible. And then we have the young right out of high school with that law, they're not connected and they're not in touch. I just try to remember, well, maybe their next career they'll bring what they learned here with them. And I just wish I could reach them. Sometimes I try and try to pull out
Yeah,
those stories so that they can feel connected to the career that they chose for
I know
whether
what
it's
you
a brief
mean.
time or if not. So
I
let me
had
see if
a, I
I've
had
got
a,
all my questions answered here.
oh, okay, okay.
Um, I think we've can make t- I think you did it. You did it.
I was going to
What makes
mention
touch safe in the classroom and
I had a dentist take my TMJ class one time, direct indirect technique for TMJ, and it incorporates myofascial, gentle and more aggressive myofascial techniques, neuromuscular techniques, craniosacral techniques, and some hybrid things that I've learned from a doctor of physiotherapy in Chile. And this dentist, his wife was a massage therapist, and he decided he wanted to check out this TMJ class. And he had been practicing dentistry for like 3 decades. And he said, he got up at the end of the class, he said, "This is the best TMJ class I've ever had." Because, we got into it and we talked about the symptoms and what causes it. And then I showed them how to work on themselves and then showed them how to work on other people. And once again, we had a lot of very interesting experiences, very positive experiences from that. But it was interesting to have a dentist say that.
I I love crossover. When you see, I had a physical therapist come to learn neuromuscular therapy because in her schooling they hadn't done any hands-on, and she was able to blend her techniques in a private practice and just absolutely loved learning that. And dentists that can explain to their patients why they want them to receive bodywork therapy and what type of bodywork therapy to receive. It's fantastic to have that. I am always encouraging people to continue their learning. Massage therapy has the benefits of there's two levels in my opinion, more than that for sure. But there's base learning where you're learning to have quality of touch, and then there's the advanced learning where you're learning how to integrate various modalities or various ways of thinking. And I just always want my students to see if they could connect to where their hands are and what the purpose behind what they're doing is. So
It's one of the
it is
things
a journey. I
That's
want
one
them
of the
in love
things
with it.
I stress a lot in my classes is how to mix and match different modalities to make the perfect session for that client at that time, instead of
Right.
doing a cookie cutter massage for every person and then wondering why people don't come back.
Right. Or they come back, but it's a very limited practice where it's really, what I'd call a pigeonhole. It's not crossing through a person's life. It might just be a piece of their life, which I guess no judgment. We all have our purposes for doing our body work, but if you're
Sure.
feeling disconnected from your client, go quiet, go within, ask yourself, well, first of all, why do I have to have miraculous things happen on the table? That might be blocking you, but at the same time, get curious, go out there and reach. And that's why I love Perg Online as well. I'm going to put my plug in
Sure.
and why I'm bringing the videos in to Argon Lines. This is that, yeah, let's get that spirit going. Let's keep that level of high curiosity, high intellectual conversation going because body work is going nowhere, especially in a world where there's so little touch in our outside world.
Oh,
So
yes.
we are the touch. We are, and we should own it.
Absolutely. Yeah, and there's room for all kinds of massage therapists, and even even just basic Swedish massage techniques. There's a lot of research showing how that can benefit all kinds of situations that people are in. But my feeling is that we're constantly learning, and somebody once said, if you stop learning, you die. And
Yeah.
I mean, even after all these years, I'm still learning, and I love to learn, and I'm a sponge. I want to learn as much as possible. But you're doing an excellent job with Perg Online, with getting these courses out to people so they can see what's available, and I appreciate you for that.
Well, thank you. And I look forward to just to give you a little bit of a story. I tend to stay behind the scenes. I like that part about my life. But I have been challenging myself to come forward and to be present in physical form. And it's been rough, but at the same time, it's been like, wow, that's why I took over Perg to meet you guys, to have these nerdy
Yeah.
conversations. I just love it. So thank you so much for taking your time in a holiday weekend to get to know both sides of things. And I am very inspired by your story, John.
Thank
Look
you,
forward to
Laura. It
seeing
was
you in physical
wonderful to
form
see you.
someday. Yes.
Yes.
And you travel for work. You're in Arkansas, but by living, but you come to North Carolina, and then we are a nationwide PERG. Do you have any other? I just want to encourage you that if you have any classes anywhere, US or international, to get them listed online on PERG, because we're getting more
Yes.
and more viewers that are curious. They'll come into your state to take a class if they're close by, but there's a lot of local people seeking out therapy, and it's what a wonderful way to be introduced to the body work, seeking out
Do
T school
classes.
classes.
I do classes in other states. I've done classes in Florida, in Kentucky, and Missouri, and a variety of other places, Texas. But the online courses available to everybody, and they're all NCBTMB approved, and they're also listed with CE broker for people in Florida and Georgia and those places. So they're out there, and the classes, the online courses, like I said, are like being in an actual class, except that
Great.
it's short videos so that you can always go back to a particular video whenever you want to for a particular technique on plantar fasciitis or carpal tunnel syndrome
I love
or
that.
migraines or whatever.
Yeah, I see you have an online portal in your on your site. That's nice. So I could
Mhm.
refer back. That's wonderful. So thank you so much for taking your time today. And we'll
Thank
close
you.
off before we get shut down. So
Take care, Laura.
I think I'll probably keep the whole video here. I really enjoyed all of what I saw today. So you might get a longer one than some, maybe.
Well,
I don't think I'm going to be able
I
to do
enjoyed
10 to 15-minute videos. It's just y'all are too interesting.
it. Yes, massage community is a lot of interesting people.
You have a good rest of your day.
You too. Bye bye.